Another thing I think I'll do is adjust this head. It's a little loose. I can tell by the way this is sunken down here. And when you're putting a head on, they always tell you to tighten the nuts, kind of like you would tighten the nuts on a front car tire with disc brakes. On those, you're supposed to tighten one here and one here and one here and one here. Same way on the head, but once the head is on there, you can just tighten it all the way around. Now on this one, I have this piece here. Now this is covering up a couple of my bolts. So it looks like it has like a wing nut on this thing. So I might can just pop that off, which would allow me to get to the nuts to adjust that head. So far so good. There. I might not even need that on there. I might could get by without it, but so these have little hex nut. These are not your normal type of banjo screws, bolts, screws. That's okay. They still do the same thing. I would really like to not break this head, because this looks like a head that was taken off of like an 11-inch banjo, because it's the way it's stretched here. So somebody had to stretch this head to put it on. A lot of times on an 11-inch banjo, you can buy one that's pre-sized with a loop in it. You don't actually have to stretch a head, but stretch a head, not stretch a head. Now, am I turning that the wrong way? Yes. Duh. Big dummy. Righty tighty. I used to have a friend that would hit the head with a pencil. And listen to the sound. George used to do that. I don't imagine George is still alive. Last time I talked to him, he was kind of looked like he was about halfway done on death's door. I rung his number a couple of times and never got an answer. There was a nice young lady, I don't remember her name. I say young, she was older than me, but anyway, she was taking care of him in his final days. And when she was around, when he was around, she would answer the phone and she'd give me an update on how he's doing. George is one that got me started playing claw hammer. If it wasn't for him, I'd still be trying to learn how to play with the banjo picks, which is illegal and sinful. And those metal banjo picks that people put on their fingers are a tool of the devil. They make your teeth rot and they'll make you die of cancer. So it's really important. If you're playing a banjo and you're using those metal picks, keep in mind that Jesus overturned the tables in the temple because someone was in there playing a banjo with those metal picks. It's sinful and it's evil. So don't ever do that. And if you are doing that, stop as soon as you can and learn how to play claw hammer or frail. Frailing is the first way to get first entrance ramp to claw hammer, and then after you learn frailing, you can learn claw hammer. Claw hammer. Oh, doesn't that sound good? Cut my fingernails and wash my hands. My hands are dirty, but this is already dirty, so I'm probably okay with that. I hadn't tied this rope off, but I'm just gonna wrap the rope around the and maybe I should have this one. Maybe I should have a string up here, because see how the neck wants to go down? Well, that's not good. That means the neck is heavier than the pot. What I might want to do is get me one of those little pull strappy things and put it up here and hang this up there. But let's see if we can rough out at least a little bit of a song with it like it is. Making these words up as I go. I kind of remember them. You know, it's been a lot of years since I learned this song in church. Let's get a twist tie or one of those tie things, and let's put that up there. Let's move that. I thought I might have some of those sitting around here, but I don't see any. I'm going to cut off this banjo string that I just put on there. Right here. I usually bend them back on themselves and then cut them. Sometimes I put them back through the loop. That way they're less likely to poke me. If you've got one of these wires sticking out, it can poke you in the hand, and that is not pleasant when you get a banjo string wire stuck in your hand or something. You know, it doesn't tend to make you feel joyous. Oh, joy! I feel pretty joyous today. Probably got some pull ties down in here somewhere, but I don't know where they're at. Maybe I could take one of these old banjo strings, tie it up here and run string through it. I wonder if that would work. Maybe. Save me walking back up to the house to get something. So, Tom, when you see me out here playing with this thing, I just want to say thank you again for making this one for me. He was such a nice guy. He sent me a message. This was back when, I guess I talked to him a little bit, but I didn't know him terribly well. He just sent me a message and asked for my address. And I sent it to him, and then he sent me this, just kind of out of the blue. I wasn't even expecting it. He didn't tell me he was going to send it, and he did. Just awful nice of him. And when we were traveling in the camper, I'm trying to remember exactly where he lived, but I think it was in Michigan. Pretty sure it was, but they were getting ready to move even then. He had a beautiful place, but he was going to move to a more beautiful place, and he had an amazing banjo shop, but he was going to build an even more glorious banjo shop. And Tom's the kind of guy, unlike me, where if you've watched me much, you know that I'm pretty dang haphazard. I'll start off something without a plan and just see where it takes me. And Tom when he built the banjo, the first thing he would do would be to make a blueprint of what he wanted the banjo to be. Before he started making it, he'd have a blueprint of the banjo, and he had blueprints of many different banjos that he had built or was going to build. He was like an engineer. He was like a banjo engineer, and he was smart. He was wicked smart. A lot smarter than I am. Nice guy. Anyway, we went out and met him and his wife. And so I was right in the process of wiring this rope up here on top of this, and my camera went dead because the batteries was played out. So I thought, well, what the heck. Got to go to the house anyway. Might as well get me some of these. They're going to be a lot better on this neck. They won't be as likely to scratch it as having that string on there. And of course, Tom did such a nice job of making this neck. The last thing I want to do is mess it up. So I'm going to take that wire off of there and haul. By the way, I had that kerosene heater going this morning, and the smell really was bothering me a lot more than I expected. And you know, back in the day, I was telling y'all, I used to live in a house. Actually, I lived in a house in Dawsonville, Georgia. It had a wood stove, and it was good enough most of the time. But I think we may have had one of these kerosene heaters too. But I remember I went up to Maine, and I lived in a trailer, and it had a wood stove in it, but the insurance company wouldn't insure it unless I took the wood stove out. So I took the wood stove out, and I got one of these kerosene heaters, and we ran that thing for quite a long time. Of course, you know, up in Maine, when you get winter, it ain't no joke. It's serious. So you get winter up in Maine, boy, whoo-wee, you better be rugged. And we was pretty rugged, but we heated the house with that old kerosene heater, and it worked. And of course we smelled this stuff all the time. We breathed this stuff all the time. Years later, they came around and said, "I don't use these things; they'll cause cancer and stuff." You know, they said it was worse for you than playing banjo with those steel picks on your fingers. So anyway,